Disclaimer, for the sake of fighting misinformation, I will have no choice but to name some channels directly in this video, channels that engage in open misinformation. However, this is not an invitation to harass those people or to attack them, so please don't go in their comment sections to harass them and call their mothers names or whatever. Instead of attacking the liars, it's better to focus on arming ourselves with knowledge so that we will not be manipulated by the liars. Thank you for your understanding. Much has been said already about the dangers of AI music, but I want to bring a new perspective to the discussion, a perspective that is grounded in my specialization in ethnomusicology, musical anthropology. In other words, the description and accurate representation of traditional music from around the world. You see, there is now a new wave of AI-generated music channels on YouTube that post AI-generated music claiming that they are authentic, that they are grounded and representative of various world traditions. Let's take, for example, this song. This is a song that the uploader claims is representative of medieval Greek Orthodox chant. Now, anybody who actually knows Greek Orthodox chant, medieval or modern, knows that this sounds nothing like that. And in fact, anybody who knows a little more about musicology can tell that these are the musicological parameters and the morphological features of Europop in the late 2010s and early 2020s, especially a lot of French pop music, the kind of songs that Maître Gims would sing. In order to prove that, what I did was take that very same song, remove the vocals, and sing over it the kind of French pop vocals that you would hear an artist like Maître Gims sing.
J'ai donné mon armure sans filet, sans armure, sans défense. J'ai cru à tes promesses gravées dans la fièvre et dans l'absence. On s'aimait fort, on s'aimait mal, on se brûlait en silence. Aujourd'hui ton nom me revient comme une lourde pénitence.
You would never achieve that result with an actual Greek Orthodox chant. You wouldn't be able to take one and add an electronic beat and a piano chord progression and suddenly make it sound like a French pop song. Because real Greek Orthodox chants are written with musicological parameters that are so distinct from that of mainstream pop music of the West, they will never resemble each other if you just add a few subtle tweaks like adding an electronic beat. But how is that possible? How is it possible that when I take the background harmonies and just turn them into a piano and just swap the frame drum for an electronic beat, which is very subtle, small modifications, 99% of the music is untouched, how is it that suddenly the mask is taken off and the song is revealed to be typologically a French pop song in the way that it behaves? Well, because it is. It is constructed like a French pop song of the late 2010s and early 2020s. The problem is that AI music is trained on pre-existing music. And because the vast majority of music that is available is music designed for mass consumption, pop and everything, that is going to make the AI systems biased towards those kind of sounds. And so ultimately, AI-trained music is always going to lean towards emulating the sensibilities of popular music designed for mass consumption, because that's what has the highest presence on the internet and on the networks and in the neural systems and everything. This is how you get channels that post songs labeled as traditional and rooted in medieval Greek Orthodox chant, but are functionally, actually, in their morphological features, late 2010s and early 2020s pop music. My theory is that the person typed prompts saying Greek traditional, Byzantine, etc., and the prompts went Greek, sure, I'll look for Greek music, and all they could really find was Europop of the late 2010s and early 2020s that very much overlaps with a lot of Greek pop music, and that's how you end up with this situation. Whenever I make video essays, a lot of people do not know who I am and discover my channel for the first time. So here I'm going to have to introduce what I do on this channel. What do I do on this channel? What is the subjects that I deal with? Fundamentally, ethnomusicology and accurate cultural representation. I am somebody who creates different types of content by collaborating with traditional musicians, by working with experts, by sticking closely to the sources. South Caucasian phenomenon.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's well established.
Found photos, recordings.
We have amazingly precise knowledge of the interval pitching.
Alors la réforme de Solem, c'est une des révolutions esthétiques.
I have comparative studies about Persian, Arabic, Turkish, Byzantine.
This entire channel's mission is to bring to people the sound of cultures as they actually are. It can be sometimes in a very academic manner. For example, I will be doing a scientific approximation of what ancient Greek music likely sounded like based on evidence. But then I will also make some other content that is more on the entertainment side. For example, the Varangian Saga, it's this 3-hour opera that the Skaldic Bard and I worked on, which is the story of a Scandinavian Viking who travels to the Eastern Roman Empire to live a life of adventure and plunder. But even then, I stick to a very strict ethnomusicological principle. The Eastern Romans, they were Greeks, so they are represented by Greek traditional music. And the Scandinavians are represented by Scandinavian traditional music. I'm not gonna throw in throat singing for the Scandinavians just because that's now a fashion when it comes to representing the Vikings, nor am I going to throw in an Indian sitar because Western composers often do that whenever any Middle Eastern culture is involved. No, when the Turks appear in the story, it's still going to be authentic Turkish traditional music that represents the Turks. To give you a tangible example of the difference between vibes-based music versus music rooted in ethnomusicology and actual tradition, let's take the example of Roman music. For most of recent Western history, Roman music never actually meant the literal sounds that the Romans themselves had musically. It meant music that has a Roman vibe to us based on associations that through some abstract process have a Roman vibe to us. So if I want to write Roman music using this vibes-based logic, I'm gonna go what I do is when I post Roman music, whether it's scientific approximations of what the actual music of the Romans was, or pieces where I take a little bit more liberties just to attract a bigger audience so that I can get them used to the sounds of ancient Rome, I'm not going to choose the instruments or the sounds based on Roman vibes. Instead, I'm going to use instruments like these that the actual Romans actually used. And, there's this note that I just played. I'm sure this passage was very unpleasant for many of you, and so the question is, why did he write the melody this way? Not based on any vibe logic, but based on the logic of, this is literally the music that the Romans used. And again, I just want to clarify because I know some people are not going to get the nuance here. I am not saying that vibes-based orchestral music about ancient Rome is inherently wrong. I am not saying that all music about ancient Rome should always be historically accurate. What I am saying is we should not confuse one for the other, and especially not pass one off as being the other. And this harkens back to the initial point at the beginning of the video. All of these AI apps, their prompts will bring them towards the music that is dominant in the neural networks. And music about ancient Rome and the neural networks is always going to be Hollywood generic orchestral sounds with vague ethnic female wailing and everything. There's very little actual presence of music about ancient Rome that actually deals with the musical systems, the scales, the modes, the instruments of ancient Rome. So invariably, you can never create music actually grounded in the anthropological musical reality of ancient Rome using AI. If you use AI, you're always going to get generic Hollywoodish kind of sounds. Played around with audio a little bit, tried to generate some songs. Shit you not, it really is like literally in the space of 20 seconds. You just type a bunch of lyrics. Superbus Latinus Mamma Mia. It's just some fucking bullshit. And then styles, epic Latin choir, ancient historical reconstruction, epic ancient music, duduk, ancient bagpipes, frame drums. And I'm just gonna fucking do create, okay? We're doing this in real time. I'm not cutting anything, okay? Look at this, look at this. It's already creating it. That's it, it's already creating it. And let's see what it sounds like. Okay, it's ready. Let's go, it's ready. Come on, sing the fucking Mamma Mia. It literally, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 full 3-minute songs and everything, fully edited and everything. And it takes literally 30 seconds. And like they all fucking sound the same on some level. Like they all begin like this. For example, you have Vivat Byzantium, epic Latin choir, Roman Byzantium. So you have this. And I just typed a bunch of prompts in Suno myself. I just went like epic, ancient, historical, traditional, folk and everything, and it gives me this. Like all of them sound the same. All of them begin with this declarative, vague. This kind of music is trained on the most popular, data that is available. A lot of it is like movie soundtracks and everything. And it's been a thing since the 2000s, since Gladiator, of having the vague ethnic vocals. Now every historical soundtrack, especially in the 2000s, doing a somewhat oriental kind of sound, and they all sound the fucking same. So one of those channels that people said, oh my god, there's somebody doing the same thing as you do, is Echo Nomad. So already in the first 3 seconds, you can tell this is AI generated. Hear that logon. Low, that break on the low. So logos, it's logos. The AI even has an accent, which is kind of funny. You have some people in the comments commenting on the fact that the AI can't even pronounce Greek particularly well. This is one of the giveaways of AI music is the vocals. When vocals are entirely synthetically generated, they tend to have these weird sort of artifacts, these weird kind of breaks, these weird glitches and everything.
Listen to the lead vocal and see if anything sounds odd.
Usually they have like a very specific, a bit unnatural sound with a lot of hissing, whistling in some consonants.
Let's take this one for example. Country cowboy rocket man.
I'm a country cowboy rocket man. I'm flying through the sky.
Do you hear how warbled and slurred the singing is?
Yeah, like this, there's this part. On the ta. A commenter recently wrote on one of my videos, what do you think about all of these AI channels that are suddenly posting music that they claim is traditional and everything? And I say, oh, most of them are lying and it's AI. And this person says, in fact, I wanted to ask this question after watching a video by Echo Nomad because I saw him talking about singing the lyrics himself and kind of thought, what the fuck, it's absolutely typical AI vocal with its weird digital echo. And one of the problems, as we're going to see, is the general aspect of dishonesty that comes with some of these AI channels. For example, this person often writes comments saying, I think I ruined my voice a little when I screamed for the chorus for The Emperor's Ambition, so I will take an extra rest day. Thank you for understanding. And this person basically claims that they are singing the songs. Of course, if you know anything again about sound mixing and everything, you can tell that these voices are entirely synthetically generated. Unfortunately, most AI musicians and AI music channels and AI artists in general thrive on ambiguity. One thing that you'll notice across the board is that they'll never openly claim, this is AI. None of these channels have AI music in the title, and they don't write in the description, this is AI generated music. They just thrive on ambiguity. They just don't say anything because, they why not? Why not have the applause? I want to have some people compliment me and say that I wrote some great music and everything. And that is what I'm criticizing. But here's the thing. This type of artistic dishonesty, we've talked about it to death as a society. The type of dishonesty that I'm really focusing on in this video is the dishonesty of taking these AI generated slop kinds of music with their cliche orchestral sounds and pseudo-ethnic sounds and everything, and pretending that they are actual grounded traditional ethnic world music. But surely that's not what's happening, right? Like surely there aren't people taking AI generated slop like this and pretending that they are accurate and grounded or historical, right? Let's click on this Awe Kaisar SPQR Epic Roman music. Here the person says, this composition revives the soundscape of ancient Rome, blending historical instrumentation. Okay, this is very important. They're claiming this composition revives the soundscape of ancient Rome. This is a very clear statement. Revives the soundscape of ancient Rome and uses historical instrumentation. Well, let's listen to this. Earlier on, I talked about the fact that AI is trained on the most popular data. The more stuff there is, the more of that the AI will be trained on. This vocal style is like R&B, American pop. And these AI generated songs are full of that kind of vocal posture, this very American pop power ballad kind of vocal style, like this one that I generated in Suno. Like if you compare it to, it sounds like pentatonics, it sounds like those, mainstream Western pop when they're belting out the vocals. So already the idea that this revives the sound of ancient Rome. What is that exactly? The dun, 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 dun. What is that? I'll tell you what it is. It's a modern orchestral string section. Triumphare. Triumphare. Authentic Latin pronunciation. Not triumphare, but trium. And we have these arpeggio orchestral strings and everything. This is exactly the kind of music that I put together, in 3 minutes at the beginning of the video with digital softwares, that epic vibes orchestral Roman music. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with making music about ancient Rome with this style. The problem is, this composition revives the soundscape of ancient Rome, blending historical instrumentation, and then this person says, inspired by the sonic world of Faria Ferrigi, this is not modern orchestral fantasy. It's a reconstruction of the voice of Rome.
This is cancer. This is so much cancer.
This is not modern orchestral fantasy. Then the entire music theory that formulates the structure of the song is modern tonal orchestral harmonic progressions. You have polyphony, you have voices harmonizing with one another, you have a classic, epic, heroic, harmonic chord progression underneath the entire thing. On every possible level, this song cannot even remotely be said to even resemble. It's not even to the periphery of the fucking galaxy cluster that ancient Roman music belonged to. Inspired by the sonic world of Faria Ferrigi, if this person thinks that this even remotely sounds like my sonic world, which is not my sonic world, it's just what happens when anybody actually grounds their work in the evidence that we have about ancient Roman music. Historical reconstruction clearly states this is historical reconstruction. Instruments, Roman tibia. Where? Like, where? As somebody who professionally works with those instruments, plays those instruments, who has physically been in presence of those instruments, I can guarantee you none of these instruments are here. This person is literally just listing a bunch of instruments that the ancient Romans used in order to lend an aura of credibility to this song. Tube thing says it here, altered or synthetic content. The entire thing is digitally generated from beginning to. This person is making claims of historical reconstruction. The way that this person brazenly misleads people through lies is... So then we have this other song, Roma Renata, or as his authentic AI Latin pronunciation would say, Roma Renata, Byzantium, epic Byzantine music.
Gladius Roma imperissum, lux novi secul.
AI. It has all the hallmarks of AI, the same kind of artifacts. The voices are not like they have this uncanny valley effect. Hey, he generated an AI song, by putting in the hard work of typing a few prompts and getting a ready-made 4-minute song. Fine, but what are the claims that he's making? Sung in Latin with authentic sounding instruments of Byzantium. No, these instruments do not sound authentic at all. And the person says the dominant voice of the tsambuna, Greek bagpipe, supported by lauto strings, deep davul and darbuka percussions. There is no tsambuna in there, whatever that was. That's like an AI trying to sound like an actual tsambuna. This is what an actual tsambuna sounds like. Lauto, there's no lauto in there. Davul darbuka, none of the percussions sound like davul or darbuka. This is just crazy to me. With this channel, what we're seeing is cases across this person's videos of falsely claiming the presence of authentic instrumentation and authentic elements just to elevate the perceived seriousness and anthropological significance of these pieces of music. Once again, there's nothing wrong if the person said, this is just like orchestral fantasy about ancient Rome. No, it's not orchestral fantasy, and it uses, the tibia, which is not in that Caesar song, and then he claims, there's a tsambuna and everything. And by the way, this person says that in the comments, they're like, I was very inspired by Faria Ferragi's Belisarius song. And that list of instruments that this person claims is in that Rena Romata song, that's the exact same list of instruments that I did in Belisarius. My theory is he just literally went for the description, copy-pasted the names of the instruments, and just posted it there in order to lend a false sort of credence, a false aura of, look, this is, it uses traditional instruments just so it feels more serious and elevates the prestige of it, basically. This is a fascinating unintended consequence of what I have been fighting for many years with this channel. What I have been pushing on this channel is the idea that we need more anthropologically meaningful representation and engagement with other cultures in our media. It's fine to have desert level music to represent the Middle East, but can we maybe once have actual Persian music in Prince of Persia? And this resonates with a lot of people. This has made this channel incredibly successful, and I'm far from the only channel pushing for these.
Batman-looking armour to a Viking ship, and those thinking they're incredibly intelligent by stating the obvious in response, going, it's fictional, bro, it's not real, it's based on a myth. There should be no historical accuracy because it's based on fiction. Sounds like a sensible argument, but in reality, it's actually a terribly weak argument to ignore the real significance of the Bronze Age, the Bronze Aged peoples of the Odyssey, their mechanical, scientific and aesthetic realities, their beliefs, their modes of transport, the limitations of their industry and production processes, how they looked, how they dressed, or how they fought, is to ignore the Odyssey entirely.
My point is, channels like mine are just symptomatic of a broader move in pop culture towards a desire for more cultural accuracy, and therefore, more than ever, cultural accuracy, meaningful representation of other cultures has become respected now, has become prestigious. So now you get the people who make AI music who come in and say, hey, I want some of that success. Clearly, having cultural accuracy works and makes you successful. The problem is, of course, they can't do the work themselves, so they have to rely on AI, and they pass off their AI generations as also being authentic and everything because they've realized that this is now a road towards popularity. There's a large amount of audiences that don't just want to listen to cool beats for the sake of cool beats in order to have historical vibes, whatever that means. They want to actually experience something anthropologically meaningful. They don't want to just listen to medieval vibes music that gives them a vibe of the Middle Ages in tavern RPG songs. They're actually curious about what the actual musicological components of the actual Middle Ages were, and they want to hear our best approximations of what the actual sound of the Middle Ages were. And what channels like Economad are doing is manipulating those audiences, getting those audiences clicks and attention by falsely claiming that they are providing them with that. Now there are going to be people, there's been 80,000 views on this. How many of those tens of thousands, even if it's just 10,000 of them, 1/8 of them who read that, there are now 10,000 more people in the world who, unless they know about ancient Roman music, likely now believe that this is what the voice of Rome was. I know that people have been misled because I have subscribers of mine, people who watch my channel, writing to me, wow, Faria, check out Economad. This guy is doing what you're doing. You've inspired him, and now he is also reviving the sound of ancient Rome. He's also doing, the research and everything. And it's like, oh my God, it's... All right, so far we've been looking at prompt-based music generation, where you type text and the AI tries to create music with what it thinks matches the text that you wrote. And as we've established, this kind of process is comically bad at rendering authentic, traditional, historical, or world music. Therefore, the potential for harm mostly exists in the potential for cultural misrepresentation and misinformation. But as long as people don't present that kind of AI music as being authentic, the harm is minimal relatively, because it can't actually do real authenticity. Therefore, traditional musicians are not in danger of being replaced. Well, the news are not that good, I'm afraid. You see, we've looked at prompt-based generation, but there is another form of AI generation that exists that actually can create authentic world music. And when you're able to create authentic traditional music without traditional musicians, you've created a situation where you don't need traditional musicians anymore. But before we get to what that generation style is, first let's go over the ethics of respecting traditional musicians, the people who make traditional music possible in the first place. Ethnomusicology and a respect for authentic traditions is not just some interest in cultural accuracy as an abstract, it's respect towards people, specifically towards the traditional musicians that keep that kind of music alive. And when AI music comes into the picture, claiming to provide people with traditional music, this directly creates a threat to traditional musicians and their livelihoods. And this probably is the most important aspect of my work. I am constantly collaborating. This is not a solo job. I am always bringing in other musicians who either are from that culture or who know that culture. Here, $95, chant any hymn you want in the Byzantine style. And we download the file, we open it.
Ανάρχος Θεός καταβέβηκεν και την Παρθένο κατόκισεν.
If you look at a single song, every single time I am posting a song on this channel, it's anywhere from $50 to, it can go up to $300, $400. One time it was $900, because these are traditional musicians and they should be paid, and I believe in supporting traditional musicians. This is a fundamental aspect that is going to become very relevant later on when we look at the ethical problem of people making quote-unquote traditional authentic music using AI. It actually affects traditional musicians at a tangible level. In 2025 alone, I have spent, and I calculated it, $6,810.65 in 2025 alone. Mind you, that $7,000 is only on that site. There's other sites where there's other musicians also that I contact, and then some musicians I just contact directly, send them the money through PayPal directly. So for the year of 2025 alone, the figure might be closer to 9,000. And of course, this is where some bad faith people are going to say, oh my God, well, if you're rich enough that you can afford this, that's good, but not everybody's rich. Not everybody can do that, so they have to use AI. I am not rich. This is just the revenue that I make with YouTube and with Spotify. The money that I make with my channel and with the music that I post, I just put it back into financing the very operation that creates more music. And you have to understand, I started out this channel grinding. I didn't have any of that money 5 years ago. I had a few $100s that I could afford to pay on something that's not the mortgage and food and everything. So I spent them on 2 instruments, a very cheap long neck Turkish balamasaz and a very cheap Iranian tambur. Then I post those first songs. After a while, I get more than 1,000 subscribers, which allows me to activate the AdSense. I put a few more videos, they make a little more money, buy even more instruments, broaden the scope of cultures and accuracy and research even more. And at a certain point, I can just straight up pay other musicians. For the AI apologists who'll go, well, not everybody's rich like you are. I know for people who have never actually put a day's work in their life, who are going to use AI to generate art, they cannot conceive of the idea that some people are able to produce real works. Not because they had the money to produce those works in the first place to begin with, but because they built up that money by producing real works in the first place, by putting in the hard work in the first place. I just want to make this very clear. None of this deserves applause, okay? Because I know some people are going to look at this and be like, oh my God, he pays musicians and he spends so much money on having accurate ethnomusicology. What a great guy. No, I don't deserve any applause for this. This is the equivalent of me saying, I don't beat my cat to death, therefore I deserve, respect and applause. Like, no, that's not something to be applauded. That's just baseline human behavior that you just don't do. And so the moment you click on Economad's videos, the first thing is, derrière nos moments précieux se trouve Ferrero Rocher. So I just got a commercial for Ferrero Rocher. This channel is monetized. They also stream their music on Spotify. This person is making money through all of this. So there's something darker even going on with those AI channels of this kind. Apps like Suno, and I'm almost 100% certain that this person's entire musical catalog has been generated by Suno. Suno is an app that allows you to type a bunch of prompts, and then in 30 seconds you get a fully mixed, fully ready to go 5-minute song. The problem with the prompt-based generation of AI music is that it has to go look for, you know, the amalgamation of music that exists, and so it tends to grab onto the more popular stuff, as we established, which is why you get all of these songs sounding like pop, modern Greek music and everything. But there is something that you can do in order to achieve a more faithful representation of those musical cultures. You can feed them, upload into those apps a specific song, and then tell the app, I want you to take that song. Now you haven't fed it prompts, you have fed it actual audio data, which is much more tangible information for it to work with. And then it can work off of that audio data. And then here it has those sliders, as you can see. It has those sliders. It has audio influence, right? So if I bring the audio influence up to 84, that means that the audio will influence the output at 84%. So what I did, for example, is I took this Kurdish folk song, Hoy Memo, I gave that song to the Suno app, and I told it, hey, take this audio data that I gave you and modify it just slightly. I put the audio influence at 84%. Don't modify it too much. And what do we get? I am now preserving the authentic qualities that exist in Kurdish folk music. This is still AI generated, but it's generated off of a pre-existing actual real-life recording that actual Kurds made and everything. And so the voices actually sound like the Kurdish vocal postures because this generation that I did was trained on actual Kurdish voices. The microtones being sang are indeed the actual microtones of Kurdish folk music because this is being trained on an audio that contained those microtones. So when you go back to Economad's channel and you click on one of his latest uploads, which is Kine M, Kurdish song, so this actually sounds pretty authentic to Kurdish music, actually. The sound is there, the vocal posture is there, the pronunciation's pretty right and everything, the microtones are there. So then what's the problem? The problem is that now traditional musicians are replaceable. Now they can be rendered obsolete. Because it used to be that if you wanted to have an authentic piece of Kurdish music, you had to find people specialized in that kind of music and you had to pay them for their services. But you don't need to do that anymore. Now, all you need to do is take a pre-existing recording that traditional musicians made of a certain culture, feed that into the AI, and the AI is going to convert the authentic musicological parameters into digital data and vomit it back into what is actually something quite authentic. The problem is the fact that this second type of AI generation is in fact authentic in its results, therefore endangering traditional musicians directly. And by the way, not just traditional musicians, they're not the only ones at risk. Think about the entire ecosystem here. Traditional music instruments makers, they are an essential part of this financial ecosystem. Now this audio-based generative system allows you to feed into the AI the sound of real instruments and then get realistic sounds of those instruments, therefore rendering traditional music makers obsolete. They only need to make the instrument once and have it in a recording once, and you put it in the AI, and the AI now has the data. People who make Kazakh dombras, tar, hurdy-gurdies, Syrian buzouks, Greek bouzouki's balamasaz, nishotkolaauto, kritikolaauto, divansaz, kobza, tambur, etc. All of them rendered obsolete. Basically, in simpler terms, thank you, Kurdish folk musicians, because you spent years and years honing your craft, learning the complex microtonality and melismata of Kurdish folk music and the complexities of performing vocal maqam music. You have honed those skills for years and years and years through sweat and hard work, so that I, the AI musician, can take your skills that you developed over time and convert them into data that allows me to post authentic sounding music that allows me to make money. Thank you. You spent all of those years, all that hard work, training those skills for me. So I can take those skills and I can make money off of it, and I never even had to learn how to play a single note in all my life. This is what's happening. There are plenty of other channels like this. This person is not remotely the only one. You cannot claim to respect traditional music and value traditional music if you do not respect traditional musicians. And the most basic form of respect we can show traditional musicians, not just instrumentalists, not just singers, but even those who make traditional instruments, the most basic form of respect that we can show to the guardians of traditional music, the people who kept it alive for us, who allow us to experience it in the first place, is to ensure the continued existence of an ethical financial ecosystem in which they remain in demand and in which they are compensated when they answer that demand. And this second type of AI generative system that we have just seen is perhaps the greatest threat to that ecosystem in the entire history of traditional music since the dawn of mankind. It sounds dramatic, but it is literally true. We are at a watershed moment in history, and we have to implement some safeguards against this very dark future that is possibly ahead of us. So now we're back to our first song, the Euro pop one that is presented as a medieval Greek Orthodox chant. Like when you call something medieval Greek Orthodox chant, you know that some people will think that, oh my God, this is literally a chant from the Middle Ages. But let's be charitable here and let's assume that what they meant is that this is typologically medieval Greek Orthodox. Well, even then that does not hold up, because as we explained in the beginning of the video, the music theory, the construction of the song operates on the basis of Western modern pop mainstream music theory rather than Greek Orthodox liturgical music theory, medieval or modern. But what does that mean tangibly in detail? Well, let's break down the song. So what I did was I took the song and I separated its layers. You basically have three main layers. You have the frame drums, which we can ignore. We have the main melody. And then we have the background synths that are doing a harmonic progression. Now, what is that? What is a harmonic progression, for those of you who don't know music theory? Harmony is the bedrock of Western music theory. Virtually everything in mainstream Western music, especially pop, is downstream, generated from harmonic progressions. A harmony is an admixture of different notes at the same time, simultaneous notes at the same time. For example, if I take this note, this note, this note, and I play them together, I have a harmony, in this case, a chord, D minor, the harmony, the chord of D minor. So what is a chord progression? Was a harmonic progression? A harmonic progression is a specific sequencing of chords in a specific pattern. For example, this is one harmonic progression. and this would be another harmonic progression. See, very different color, very different character. It's almost like there's a different story being told there. And that is what this layer is doing in the back. Of that song. It is the harmonic progression that is the actual true bedrock of the musical experience. A specific harmonic progression is that's the harmonic progression that is happening in the song. Now you might say, well, okay, but why does that make it so unorthodox, to do a bad pun? Well, the reason is because Orthodox Greek Byzantine tradition does not have any concept of harmony to begin with. It does not utilize harmony. Harmony is not even part of the language of that tradition. This is Byzantine Chant, the Received Tradition, a lesson book by John Michael Boyer, a protopsaltis and master cantor of the Orthodox Byzantine choral tradition. And he writes in the introductory pages of the book, whereas most forms of Western music are conceived of vertically through the layering of complementary musical lines, creating harmonic progression, Byzantine music is conceived of horizontally through sophisticated development of melody. This creates a musical language expressed through melodic rather than harmonic progression. And by the way, here I know that some bad faith people are going to come in saying, well, you said that Byzantine chant doesn't have harmony, but it does. It has a drone. Yeah, that drone is called the ison, and the ison is not a form of harmonization. In fact, people who are themselves part of the Byzantine cantorial world will categorically reject any attempts at classifying the ison as a form of harmony. I once again will read to you the works of John Michael Boyer, who says even Byzantine music's drone, the isokratima, often referred to simply as ison, actually reinforces the monophonic nature of the music, giving the melody a solid foundation against which it is sung. Rather than being merely a rudimentary form of harmonization, ison effectively creates the sonority of the melody as it is meant to be heard. So if you want to disagree with my statement that there is no logic of harmony in Byzantine chant, you're welcome to disagree with one of the biggest names in Byzantine chant. Byzantine chant expresses itself as a melody alone. See, in this song, because the system is not monophonic, but is instead harmonic, the actual heavy lifting is being done by the harmonic progression. It's the harmonic progression that's carrying the song, not the melody. So the melody is more restrained, and the melody is written to match the notes of the chords happening underneath. Whereas if you have a tradition like Byzantine chant that doesn't have chords to match with, then it's just going to have to do all of the work through the melody. The melody has to do the heavy lifting. And so you get these complex florid melodies. Okay, let's analyze the actual lead melody here. So I put the vocals in Melodyne, and it shows us exactly which note is being sung on which syllable of each word, right? So if we begin here like this, what note is that? It's EB. EB is one of the notes that is contained within the chord of C minor. See what I mean? The melody is constructed on the basis of the harmonic progression. The harmonic progression starts with a C minor. When that portion of the song is hitting the chord of C minor, the note that the melody is singing has to be one of the notes that is inside C minor in order for them to work, in order for them to harmonize together, to match, to follow the coherence of the harmonic progression. And then on the next beat, now we're on F. Now, so it goes on F. What is that exact same chord that plays here? It's the chord B flat major. What note does B flat major contain? F the same note that is being sung, because once again, the melody is constructed to match the harmonic progression. See, what's happening is that the entire song, verse by verse, repeats the same harmonic progression. C minor, B flat major, C minor, G sharp major, B flat major, C minor. And when the next verse starts, that same harmonic progression restarts. And so the melody of the entire song was generated by the AI specifically to match the harmonic progression each and every single time. This is not how Orthodox chant is structured or formulated. See, imagine this is the timeline of the song, and you have the harmonic progression, the different chords happening at specific moments within a verse. Every time a verse ends and another begins, this same harmonic progression starts again. The way that a lot of Western music, especially in the mainstream pop world, is written is that they decide on the harmonic progression first, and then when they're writing the melody, they say, okay, well, now I have to decide what note the melody is going to be singing here. Well, what chord is happening when we're in this phase of the song? Oh, well, then I have to choose one of the notes that this chord contains. You have three options, and so I will choose this note within that chord. You write the melody based on what the harmonic progression is. This is completely alien to the Eastern modal monophonic traditions like Byzantine Orthodox chant, like Ottoman classical music, like Persian classical music, like Greek traditional folk music. They do not write their melodies this way because there is no harmonic progression to begin with for them to think about. You have to understand, this is much bigger than just, oh, okay, so Byzantine music doesn't have harmony, so if we take away the background harmony, now it's authentic Byzantine chant. No, it still wouldn't sound like authentic Byzantine chant because you can still tell that the melody has a different parameter that drove it in the first place, that the base algorithm that generated the melody is one of harmony. That is why an actual piece of Byzantine chant sounds completely different from this melody, even if we take the harmony out, because the melody itself, even if you're not hearing the harmony, the melody contains the implication of the harmony within it. There's this exchange on Echo Nomad's channel with Basil Brew, who's one of my subscribers, and he writes, apart from the rhythm, it doesn't sound at all like Byzantine music. Because I think, ironically, a lot of people will think that the tum, ta-tum, tum, tum, tum frame drum, that this kind of, oh, that's reggaeton, that's modern. No, that's actually one of the stuff that's might be the only thing that's actually traditional to the Balkanic region. It's very ancient, it's everywhere. And then Echo Nomad responds, you might be right on the part, there's no might, he is right. You might be right on the part that it does not sound very much like Byzantine music. I wanted to keep the instruments very simple for the intro song, so I only went for the frame drum and very simple vocal background ambiance. The problem is, the very simple vocal background ambiance is a harmonic progression that is anathema, pardon the pun, to Greek Orthodox music. And this simple vocal background ambiance is actually not simple. It is a sophisticated harmonic system from which the entire AI-generated music was derived out of and is subordinate to. I know that a lot of Byzantine music includes a lot of flutes and lira, but I did not want it for the intro. And Basil Brew very rightly responds, it's not the instruments. You could have used chanting as an inspiration, have many vocals of the same melody in different pitches with microtones and trails in the voice. See, what Basil Brew is describing is a monophonic system, many vocals of the same melody, not different voices harmonizing with one another. Not harmonizing with a harmonic progression in the background ambiance, vocals all singing the same melody, microtones and trails, meaning the sophisticated melodic development that John Michael Boyer was talking about in the book that I just read with the quote. And this is where you realize the terrifying truth. Echo Nomad responds, well, you know, I know that there's a lot of flutes and liras, but maybe that's why it doesn't sound Byzantine. And you realize these people are fucking clueless. What AI-generated technology has allowed people to do is a bunch of people who don't know anything about music. This person doesn't even know what his simple vocal background ambiance is. he calls it that. He doesn't realize that it's a harmonic progression that is just fundamentally anathema, once again, pardon the pun, to Orthodox Greek music and everything. He doesn't even know what's going on in his AI generations. And the fact that he responds with, oh, well, maybe it's because there's no flutes and liras that it doesn't really sound Byzantine. These people have no clue what they are doing. AI technology has now allowed a bunch of clueless people who don't know the first thing about music theory, whether it's Western music theory or Byzantine music theory, to be able to generate AI-generated pseudo-ethnic slop and present it as actual ethnic music. And so now hopefully you understand at a tangible level the danger of these AI-generated pieces of music that claim to be rooted in certain traditions. World traditions operate on the basis of their own musical frameworks, of their own musical systems. But all of these AI generations are formulated on the basis of the modern Western harmonic system, and therefore everything you're going to get is pseudo-ethnic music with a vague surface level vibe, like this song that we were talking about. It has a male deep Greek vocalist and it has a frame drum that makes it sound old, and so okay, so it's enough to give the illusion of ancientness and tradition to people who don't know any better. But that's the tip of the iceberg. The actual totality of the iceberg is entirely Western pop logic. I think what we're witnessing with these AI-produced songs about Byzantium on the internet is the birth of a new vibe genre. You know how you have desert-level music versus actual Middle Eastern music, desert-level music being just vibes-based music, or tavern RPG music, which is a vibes-based approach to the Middle Ages. Well, now Byzantium is receiving that treatment. Actual Byzantine music, whether we're talking about its secular elements, Greek folk music is fundamentally Byzantine in character, or if we're talking about Greek Orthodox liturgical chant, Byzantine music is complex systems of modality, rich traditions, highly sophisticated rules and everything. The same thing with medieval music, and the same thing with Makam Middle Eastern music. And both of them get their overly simplified shadow. Medieval music and all of its complexity gets medieval vibes tavern RPG music, and Middle Eastern music gets the stereotype that is desert level Orientalist music. And similarly, Byzantine music is now getting its own treatment, its own vibified oversimplification, which is Byzantine vibes music, which seems to boil down to, you got like epic deep male vocalists singing in Greek and Latin, and that gives you Byzantine vibes. So here we have a song called Ashuraya Epic Assyrian Music, Ancient Mesopotamian Folk History. This is not a historical replica, but a modern reimagining rooted in Assyrian folk tradition, Assyrian Orthodox chant elements, and ancient Mesopotamian aesthetics. So let's listen to it. This is like a riff that, again, Hans Zimmer would have written for, like, his early 2000s scores with epic orchestral music. This is what you would hear in a rock song. This is what you would hear in modern Western pop music. Claims here are rooted in Assyrian folk tradition, Assyrian Orthodox chant elements. None of that is true, like at any degree. Like nothing about this even remotely resembles Assyrian Orthodox chant elements or Assyrian folk tradition. Somebody's going to click on this, not know any better, and they'll be like, oh, I guess this is what, this is at least rooted in Assyrian folk tradition. No, it's so far removed from Assyrian folk and Orthodox tradition that even the claim rooted is stretching it to the point that Mr. Fantastic would tear apart. You see, the thing about this vibes-based approach versus anthropological authenticity is that there's always a trade-off. If you want to maximize your immediate enjoyment, you best stick to medieval vibes music because it's fundamentally modern music. Here's a melody harmonized with the modern Western harmonic system. Here's the same melody harmonized in the medieval harmonic tendency. If you want to have an anthropologically meaningful experience that elevates you intellectually, very often you have to go outside of your comfort zone. You have to question your preconceptions of what even is good music, because what is the definitional apex of bad music to one culture may be the very representation of musical perfection for another culture. And by the way, I know some detractors and bad faith people are going to probably be like, oh, it's funny, I think those AI pieces of music, they're so much more enjoyable than anything you've posted on your channel. And they'll think that this is somehow a checkmate, as if it, first off, it doesn't address any of the arguments. But secondly, no shit, Sherlock. Of course, these AI pieces of music will be immediately more enjoyable to 90% of the population, because the work that I do, I take pride in the fact that the music that I post is an acquired taste for the most part. That is what ethnomusicology is about. Ethnomusicology isn't about, if I don't like the song, then the song has failed. It's the equivalent of somebody going to a museum about ancient Egypt and there being replicas of ancient Egyptian art, and then some moron saying, yeah, I'm going to leave a 110 review on this museum, and I think that Leonardo da Vinci is so much better. What a shit exposition. It's like, if you approach anthropology and culture through the lens of if it's enjoyable, it's good, then you don't even understand the thing.
There's something very clever about those AI musicians. Slimy and kind of manipulative, but clever. They're gaming the system, because whenever a content creator decides to commit to authenticity, that is synonymous with choosing not to optimize their potential for success. It's synonymous with shooting yourself in the foot if your goal was maximizing your chances for success. Because in the world of music, maximizing the chances of success means conforming to the parameters of modern Western tonal harmonic systems, because that is now the global musical language that is the most easily accessible. It's the safest option that everybody's used to without having to develop the acquired taste in order to enjoy it. See, when I make music related to ancient Greece, I don't want to just do vibes about ancient Greece. I want to actually implement the musicological features that actual ancient Greek music had, which means that I am going to be alienating 90% of the potential audience. Why? Because the musicological features of ancient Greek music were astoundingly different from our modern tastes. So when I made this song and I chose to compose it and sing it and perform it in the actual and harmonic modes of ancient Greek music, it sounds weird. If I wanted to maximize my chances for success, I would have just made this instead. And right now that video would probably be at 2 million views instead of, 300,000 views. And that's okay. That's just a natural trade-off. Either you stick to authenticity, which basically means committing to the parameters of world musical traditions without modifying them for the sake of maximizing their potential for success, modifying them to match the Western tonal system, that is. And if you do want to do that, then you have chosen success over authenticity. And it's perfectly fine. Both options are valid in my eyes. But now the AI musicians like Echo Nomad come and they basically game the system by upending and canceling that trade-off by lying. They want to have their cake and eat it too. So they just pretend that it is authentic music rooted in actual anthropological parameters. That way they can get the attention and the clicks of people who are here not just for cool beats, but for an actual anthropologically meaningful experience of music. And they tell them, oh, this is not modern orchestral fantasy. This is the sound of ancient Rome. You want the sound of ancient Rome? This is the sound of ancient Rome. But then because it is modern orchestral fantasy based on the most generic, common, safe tastes of the Western pop harmonic progression system, well, then they maximize their chances for success in that way. So These people may be talentless hacks who don't know anything about music and who have never worked a day in their lives for their music, but they are clever. You gotta give them that.
Wow, Faria, you have inspired so many people. There's so many channels suddenly in the last few months who are also coming up with epic Byzantine music.
Or let's say you have this other channel, Mozhava, which is a channel by an Iranian. Now what this Mozhava guy does is that he takes a lot of the songs and the concepts of the songs that I came up with in lyrics, and he just takes the exact same concepts, the exact same titles of my songs, word for word, and copies the exact same lyrics. He just makes AI generated music for them. So for example, you have Humata. Humata was my idea of taking an Avestan prayer from the Zoroastrian religion and turning it to a song. And I'm not aware of any other instance of a song by Iranians where they took that prayer and made it into a song. So I make it in, 5 months ago, in August 13, 2025. And you can hear, of course, that it's very much grounded in Iranian tradition and everything. There's like, how many Iranians are working on this? There's Ali Farbadnia, there's the vocals of Fereshteh, Ali Reza Berenjan, real instruments, real daf and everything, very much rooted in Iranian traditional musical sounds and everything. And then you have this guy a few months later, takes Humata, takes the same concept, keeps the same title, changes epic Iranian music to epic Persian music. Western pop kind of stuff. Do you know what instrument that is? Or rather, what instrument the AI is imitating? The duduk. And this is the great irony for me. Some of these people use the exact same titles with the exact same lyrics that I found and everything. Of course, they're operating in a legally safe space. I don't own the phrase I am Cyrus. It's a historical phrase. I don't own that set of lyrics from the Behistun inscription. I was the first person to have the idea of taking the Behistun inscription, of making it into a song called I Am Cyrus, and somebody just pretty much steals that entire concept.
And like, on God, as the youngsters say, I would not have had any problem if those people had, taken my exact titles, the same configuration, and the same lyrics and the same concepts exactly, if at least it was in service of bringing more beautiful representation of Iranian culture to the world. I started the Epic Iranian series so that we could finally have an alternative to Orientalist music. And what inspiration did it bring? Iranians through AI creating more Orientalist music off of the influence of the concepts that they got from this channel, which is kind of like an amazing, it's like a Greek tragedy level irony or something.
Same thing with the whole epic Byzantine music thing. What is the epic Byzantine music? Of course, I did not come up with the terms epic Byzantine or music, but I'm the one who came up with that configuration of a title. I'm the one who's been doing that for many years, since before AI existed. And the Epic Byzantine series, as the description of each video explains, is a musicological project where the sounds of modern Greek music are used as a framing device to explore themes pertaining to the Eastern Roman Empire. There is an entire living tradition of folk songs and stories that have their roots in medieval Greek, Eastern Roman imagination. The acritic songs, for example, an entire repertoire of epic ballads and songs about the border guard warriors of the Eastern Roman Empire. The poetry and the lyrics are very much rooted in formulaic imagery and tropes and the folkloric imagination of Byzantium. And it's a collaborative process. I work with Greek musicians like Dimitris Dallas, Dimitris Athanasopoulos. I work with folklorists and researchers. That's what the Epic Byzantine series is about. And then people come in saying, wow, you've inspired so many people, but the inspiration is just some people taking the concept of Epic Byzantine music and all they understood from it is loud, epic, cool beats that are about Byzantium in some way. And the niche that I'm working in that tries so hard to fill this niche with meaningful anthropological representations of other cultures is now inundated with epic Byzantine music that's all generic AI-generated slop that all sounds the same.
Hi Faria, thanks for your work. I'd like to know your opinion on the use of AI for music creation, specifically historical music. I've noticed a rise in channels producing music videos using AI. and it's easy to see that they're influenced by your work. What do you think about this?
Mr. Booze, Mr. Booze.
But I don't want to end this video on too dour of a note. It's not hopeless. There's a lot of great traditional musicians out there. If you're now asking, well, you know, where can I find some good traditional musicians? Go for my collaborators video, for example. I talk about many of them, or click on virtually any of my videos. You'll see them credited. You'll see the names of, you know, the dozens upon dozens of people that I work with that make the music on this channel possible. Some of them have YouTube channels. They're amazing. At the end of the day, you know, the AI musicians are going to be there. We're not going to defeat them. The peddlers of fake authenticity will be there. So instead of focusing on trying to defeat them, what we should do rather is surround ourselves with knowledge, protect ourselves from their lies, and fill our algorithm and media spaces with real traditional musicians. So I think we can end this video on a more positive note. But I still need some fucking alcohol though. Like,
Mr. Booze.